I first came to Korea back in 2006. I didn't really know anything about the culture except for the food. You see, I was an ESL teacher in Los Angeles before that, and I would go out with my students, and we used to go to this Korean barbecue restaurant called Madang-se, which had all-you-could-eat barbecue. And it was the first place that I ever tried kimchi. And I remember eating kimchi for the first time, and I remember eating it and thinking, this is really not very good. I don't like it. It's got all the garlic, and it's the sour cabbage, and it has the red pepper powder, and I don't think I like this. But I had a little beer, and then I had a little bit more kimchi, and I thought, it's probably not all that bad, and then a little bit more beer, and a little bit more kimchi, and a little bit more beer, and a little bit more kimchi, and before I knew it, I was eating like this. And by that time, I was in love with it. I was hooked. So that was my first experience with Korean food. I since moved to Korea and started to study the language. One of the things that I learned was the writing system, the Hangul. The Hangul is a fantastic writing system because it's really, really easy to read. It's not like all of the other Asian languages. There's only 24 characters, and it's really easy to read. If you walk around Seoul, you can see it. It's these blocky letters, and sometimes they have the circle like that, and it's very distinct. You can always tell what Korean writing looks like. So my hat's off to King Dae-jung for inventing such a wonderful writing system. King Dae-jung is the king who invented it many, many, many years ago. Also, I got to know the hanbok. The hanbok is the traditional dress that the Koreans wear. It looks great. It's also from the ancient style. You can see them wear it on holidays and at weddings, actually. I'm married to a Korean woman myself, and we both wore the hanbok for our wedding, so it was very cool. But the story I want to tell you about today is not about me. It's about a friend of mine named Lance Noe. Now, Lance Noe was a teacher here. He came here actually about 2 years before I did. And when he came here, he didn't know anything about the hierarchy system, as I didn't either, because we're not really taught about the hierarchy system. Basically, it's like this. When you're speaking to someone, you have to use a different form of the language. If you're speaking to a child, you have to talk in the form that you would talk to the child. If you're speaking to a friend of yours, it's quite a bit different. And if you're speaking to, let's say, the king or your boss or your grandparents, then you use an elevated form, a higher form. And the grandparents and the old people, they expect you to use a higher form with them. It's what they do. It's just a respectful thing to do, and it's part of their culture. But when you're fresh off the boat, you don't really know that, right? So you just kind of have to learn. Well, now Lance was a kindergarten teacher. So when Lance walked into his kindergarten class, he would have kindergartners there, and they would say, "Annyeong!" And that was the first word that he learned, which is the short form, or the familiar form, or the child form for "annyeonghaseyo," which is hello. Now, Lance didn't know that. So Lance would walk around Seoul thinking that he knew the word for hello, which was, for him, annyeong. So he would say hello to everybody. Annyeong to the kids, or annyeong to the old ladies, and they would all be really freaked out and kind of surprised, but he had no idea why they were surprised. He thought it was just because he was a white guy and he was speaking Korean. He didn't know that they were taken aback because he was using such a low form of the language with them. So he lived in this area called Haebongchang. Now, Haebongchang is money. It's lots and lots of money. There's lots of rich people that live there, and he would, on his walks in Haebongchang, when he would walk around the neighborhood, he used to see this old harabaji, which means grandfather, and this old man standing out in front of his house. Well, Lance would walk up to the old man and say, "Annyeong," and the old man would laugh because he thought that was really funny, and they would get into these conversations. Well, it wasn't deep conversation or anything like that. It was, "How do you like Korea?" "Oh, I like Korea just fine. It's a great place to live," this kind of thing. So Lance got to know this old man for about a month. One day, Lance's boss from the kindergarten comes over, and they're making food, and they decide to go out for a walk in the neighborhood. So they go out for a walk in the neighborhood, and they come across this old man standing out in front of his house. And Lance says, "Annyeong!" And the boss sees the old man and goes, "선생님, 선생님." And Lance doesn't have any idea what this guy's doing. Well, the boss grabs Lance by the wrist and pulls him down the street. And Lance goes, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And the boss goes, "Don't you know who that is? Don't you know who that is?" And Lance says, "No, it's just some friendly old man, that's all." And the boss goes, "No, no, that's not just some old man. That's Kim Dae-jung." And Lance says, "Who?" And the boss says, "Kim Dae-jung. Don't you know who Kim Dae-jung is? President Kim Dae-jung?" And Lance says, "No, I didn't know." He said, "Yeah, that's the president. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Don't you know that? Oh, and you were talking to him like he was a little child. Do you know how insulting that is?" And Lance was really upset now. And he's saying, "Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do?" And the guy goes, I'll teach you how to say hello, but oh God, I can't believe you did that." So the next day, Lance goes up to the old man and he says, "안녕하십니까? 안녕하십니까, 선생님." And the old man, President Kim Dae-jung, goes like this. And Lance says, "What's the matter?" And Kim Dae-jung says, "Everybody's always talking to me on the high level. I like the fact that you and I were just having a regular conversation." And Lance told me later that he thought that that was a really good summary of the way that Korean people are. They're very open, they're very warm, they're very friendly, and they're very accepting. And I found that myself. So hats off also to Kim Dae-jung. And thanks to the Korean people.